Now everybody has a jacket.
Don't worry about my jacket.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this afternoon's Legends and Leapers conversation. We'll take a few minutes to allow people in. Please enjoy the music while we do.
Meanwhile, don't you worry about my jacket, Lauryn.
Ricky, I'm gonna let Ron and Andre fill you in on what you missed the last 10 minutes.
I'm a grown man. I can wear whatever jacket I want to wear.
So
Wow.
basically what you're telling me is everybody has an office jacket. I need to keep me a little office jacket at my home office because going upstairs is too much time and effort.
Wow, we are entering in. We're up to 77 folks. Looking forward to this conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and folks will continue to file in. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to January's installation of Legends and Leapers. My name is Ebony Wimbush. I am the president and CEO of AMAC, and I want to thank you for joining another dynamic and what I'm certain to be an engaging Legends and Leapers conversation. You can see we're already off to a firecracker start. Before I turn it over to our host, I want to share with you some updates that's happening in our organization. So as many of you have seen, I'm certain in the December newsletter, we have brought on a new member of our family. Jeanette Saunders has joined us as the Vice President of Education and Advisory Services. Jeanette has hit the ground running, has already presented on behalf of AMAC at the TRB conference, which drew over 10,000 people earlier this month. As you also saw, we were doing an industry survey. So I want to thank you. We had over 1,500 people reply to that survey, really shaping the organization. Our board of directors, as well as the national office, will go into strategic planning in the next week, and your input is really going to help us shape the future and the focus of the organization for you. Last but not least, I wanted to share some of the highlights from 2022. You should have received a top 22 moments, but I think it's really important. It's important because of the way that each of you continue to engage and pour into our organization and how we continue to pour into you, our membership, through our programming, through our advocacy, through our engagement. So last year in 2022, we increased our membership by 36%. Over 7,000 people participated in AMAC events, both virtually and in person. We launched our fellowship program and selected 7 aviation executives to lead that program and engage with our next generation of executives and senior managers in this industry. We launched 8 new chapters, and I'm happy to say that the Baltimore, Washington chapter was first out of the gate, and they have elected their first slate of officers. Check that out on our webpage. Chicago is right behind them, and they are starting their elections process now. The foundation awarded over $60,000 worth of scholarships. And of course, AMAC was involved in ACRP, not just through a memo of understanding and really solidifying the relationship, but we were awarded and selected to lead a research project that helps our members, increasing the participation of ACDBEs and DBEs in a meaningful way in this airport industry so that we can provide tools and resources for airports to do just that. So again, a lot of great moments to come. Be on the lookout for our upcoming programs in 2023. But with that, I'm now going to turn it over to our co-host, because again, they've got an exciting conversation coming up, and they'll introduce today's Legends and Leapers. So Lauryn, I'm going to turn it over to you and Ricky.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Ebony, for having your priorities together as to who you were addressing
Ebony,
first.
you dropped the ball. You dropped the ball.
Ricky, before you were getting on, I was Andre and Ron were actually telling me how I was like the Michael Jordan of Legends and Leapers, and you were like BJ Armstrong, and I was like, you know what?
BJ Armstrong.
Totally,
wow.
Stick there. It's fine though. But I was like, that's totally valid.
I'm not even
Scottie
Pippen. I'm BJ Armstrong. Wow.
Role players.
You dropped down a little bit. You dropped down a little bit in 2023, only because Ron came correct today. We'll see a little bit more of that as the show goes on. But go ahead. Sorry. You know what?
All right. So since she's given me a chance to speak, and sounds like she's already overly influenced Ron and Andre. I mean, brothers, you can't sell me out like that. Not this early anyway. So Legends and Leapers 2023. Thank you so much for being here. I think most of you know the origin of this show. It's an attempt to bring together more established experience. We won't use the word old, but I think I just did. Members of our industry with some of the lesser experienced professionals who are still kind of working their way through, making a mark, but still working their way through. In some cases, they're younger. And to see if there's a difference in those two perspectives on questions that we ask. Often we find that there's more in common than otherwise, but on occasion we find that there's a difference of opinion. We expect this show to be inspirational, to be enlightening, to be informative, but also to be entertaining as well, and that's why the show has been so popular. I do everything I can to carry my coworker so that we can keep the show at a very high standard that gets progressively difficult as the show goes on. See, she doesn't even have the manners to not drink on the show. This is a real show. Wow, you see that? So anyway, with that being said, welcome. It's good to know that you're all on the call, and we're looking forward to an exciting show. All right, my good friend Lauryn, you're up.
Oh, why, thank you. Let me put the team back on my back. All right, so everyone, if you do not know these two gentlemen, I am excited to introduce you to them. And if you don't know them, that means we need to get you as a member of AMAC, because these two guys are powerhouses in their own respect, as a leaper and as a legend. So I'm actually going to start with Mr. Titus. Andre Titus is the compliance manager at Marketplace Development at Boston Logan International Airport and is an integral part of the concessions program management team. He continues to develop and maintain key relationships while working on launching innovative outreach and development programs. After completing his bachelor's of liberal arts at the University of Massachusetts, Andre went on to spend the next 8 years working with state and community organizations and has extensive experience processing MWBE, which is Minority and Women Business Enterprises, and DBE applications. Since joining the Marketplace Development team 5 years ago, he has been a vital part of the joint venture review process by providing guidance that has led to the approval of several joint ventures tied to significant lease packages. Andre has also proven to be an invaluable resource to the ACDBE tenants at Logan Airport by also aiding in certification matters as well as general business development of numerous ACDBE certified firms. Andre also serves as the Northeast Regional Director of the AMAC Trade Board of Directors. His passion for enhancing the development and implementation of diversity strategies to increase the capacity of socially and economically disadvantaged individuals and fresh perspective, along with his experience and continued development, puts him in a unique position to support small business owners in the community. Whew, all right. I would take a sip of my drink.
Just so everybody knows, she read all of that. My stuff was ad-lib.
No, that was memorized, Ricky. I practiced all week. Thank you very much. Jeez, now I got to go back and remember Ron's bio as well after reading Andre's. Give me a moment. Ron Gomes is Vice President, Strategic Alliances with HMSHost, where he champions over 120 ACDBE partners, generating nearly $500 million in pre-pandemic revenues. In addition to being a licensed and degreed civil engineer, Ron holds an MBA from Babson College. Ron's corporate experience includes development-related positions with PepsiCo's restaurant division and Marriott Hotels prior to joining HMSHost in 1996. Ron brings a unique perspective to his position, having spent 5 years in design and construction and another 6 years leading one of HMSHost's business development teams to secure airport concession contracts throughout the United States, including Boston, Tampa, Chicago, Anchorage, Alaska, and Honolulu. For the past 15 years, Ron has brought an analytical and business focus to HMSHost partnering efforts with diverse businesses, ensuring HMSHost industry-leading role in developing and promoting a successful MWDBE program. Ron is a frequent speaker at industry conferences and panels. Can I let the rest of the cat out the bag, Ron?
A little bit.
Okay, so just a little bit of, Ron is going to be retiring this year within the next couple months. So we are really excited to have Ron on Legends and Leapers as our legend, because he has made very significant impacts in our industry and has just been a very integral part of the HMSHost team. So thank you, Ron, for all that you've done. We appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. And Ricky, she did ad-lib that part.
I did.
Yeah, she
and
did.
That's probably all the nice things I'm going to say at this point. So I hope you guys enjoyed.
Wow. Well, I'll say this before we get into the Q&A. I mean, I've had the good fortune of knowing Ron for quite some time, and I know a lot of other people in the industry that know him. Many know him better than I do, and if you talk to anybody about Ron, they will have only genuinely nice, favorable things to say about him. He's just a stand-up guy. He's a gem in the industry. He's an icon, and I'm not ready to clap yet because I think the industry will miss him too much for us to celebrate. But you know, when I look at his personal aspiration, I think he's paid his dues, and if he's ready to spend some time with Ron, then he deserves that. And so, my friend, brother, I wish you the very best. Hopefully you'll find another way to stay in the business so that we can continue to enjoy you as a person and all the acumen that you bring to this space.
Appreciate that. I'm trying to leave before I do too much damage.
Okay. All right. So what I didn't say in the opening was I didn't remind you all that we do not provide questions to the panelists in advance of the session. As a matter of fact, Lauryn and I will often remind people that we don't even know what questions we're going to ask when the lights come on. We kind of make them up as we go. And so I do have a first question. I have a second question that I came up with while sitting here, and then a third question came up. But I'm not sure if I'm going to ask them all before Lauryn behaves rudely and jump in.
Are you trying to take Scottie Pippen's spot? Look at you moving up in the depth chart, Ricky.
You know what?
I'm impressed.
It's okay. Yeah, that's okay. I don't know what you're drinking in that cup. So let's do this. You know, we don't have any women on the panel. Okay, Lauryn is a moderator. We don't have any women on as panelists. And so we're going to lose that perspective. So I'm going to get the most female out of you two that I can get. So
tap into that feminine energy.
So from your perspectives, Ron, more seasoned, Andre, not so seasoned, still on the rise. What advice would you give to women in this industry, in this business, who are trying to succeed as an entrepreneur or business person or as a professional? And what I'm looking for you to do is to have an out-of-body experience and imagine what women must be going through, and from a male perspective, what advice you would give them to succeed, to overcome the hurdles as you imagine them. And may the best man go first.
That would be Andre.
Lead us off? You want to lead us off?
Go for it. Okay.
Oh, but we can stall for like 15 minutes, guys. We have plenty
No,
of
no,
time.
no. I'll kick us off. No problem. No problem at all. That's a really tough question. I'll say from personal experience, I would advise women in this industry to seek out either individuals or organizations that have a history of good track record working with women-owned businesses and with WBEs. This kind of work, as we all know here, needs to be supported by all the stakeholders, not just the members in AMAC or the business owners. So that would be my first piece of advice to women in this industry, is to try and seek out organizations or agencies that have high participation of WBEs or women-owned businesses in the industry.
The question was for business and professionals.
Well, I had to leave someone meat on the bone for Ron.
Oh, that was it. Okay. So you guys are partnering now. Go ahead.
Andre and I have too much respect for each other, so we're going to be entirely too nice throughout this conversation. And I apologize in advance. But the advice I would give to women is I'm one of 4 boys. I had one child, it was a son. And yeah, I'm probably not the best one to advise you, but based on my life experience, one of the best bosses I ever had was a woman. When I retire, my replacement is going to be a woman. She started Monday, and I feel like I can say something today. This is the family here. The announcement officially goes out tomorrow. But Shelby Scales is joining HMSHost. We lured her out of government. She was director OSDBU. She's coming in. She's riding shotgun with me. And right around Thanksgiving, I also brought back Devon Ray, who was here with us briefly before the pandemic, and she's back. And the 2 of them will outwork me every day of the year. My advice to women coming up: be your authentic self, work, don't emulate what the guys do, because we make a mess of things sometimes. Be your authentic self, bring yourself to the table, you will be successful.
All right. So I'm going to ask you guys to have another out-of-body experience. And this is from a different perspective. Both of you are in the concessions space, right? As you know, the A&E space is an important element of AMAC, right? That segment is not represented on this call. And so I'm going to ask the same basic question as A&E firms try to gain traction in AMAC and forge relationships with the community that AMAC represents. What advice would you give them? They find it very challenging because in their minds AMAC is so concessions focused that it's been a challenge for them. But if you guys can kind of step out of yourself and provide advice to the A&E community, what would that advice be?
And for those that aren't familiar with A&E, architecture and engineering, and can we throw construction in there as well, Ricky? Or
Yes,
okay.
yes, can. Yep.
Awesome. I just gave you guys time to think.
All right, I'll go first this time, Andre. So
Okay.
this is a well-kept secret. I'm a recovering civil engineer. I came out of the A&E world before I came into the concessions world. AMAC is difficult for A&E because until very recently, I think AMAC, maybe the leadership at AMAC was very concessions leaning and very, I'll be frank, I think concessionaires had a little too much to say with what was going on at AMAC. I'm happy to see AMAC pull this back into the airport realm where it belongs. That's not a blatant suck up, Ricky, that's reality. I really do think that that's where this belongs. And engineers by their nature are shy and introverted. That's why I had to get out, because I realized being shy and introverted wasn't working for me. So I did come over to the dark side of concessions. But my advice to the A&E folks is get in the game, step in, volunteer, come to the conferences, make some phone calls. Call me. I'll give you advice. How do you make inroads into this community, and how do you shout down us loudmouth concessionaires? And there's, to me, the growth in this industry is going to be on the A&E side. We're concessionaires, we're chasing pennies in the corner. There's a finite amount of money people are willing to spend on concessions, but We've got all kinds of money flowing from our federal government into the travel sector. You got to get in there and mix it up. But there's going to be plenty for all, but you got to be heard. You got to step up. You got to put a mic in front of your mouth. I know you're not prone to do that, but that's what you need to do.
Yeah, I would echo that last point, Ron, and just say to be aggressive in your pursuits. So as Ricky mentioned, you know, we're really concessions heavy. Our contract here at Logan Airport is a concessions contract, but as the compliance manager, part of my job is to get out into the local community and to network with minority-owned businesses. And there are a lot of construction companies that want to participate in some of the projects going on. So Massport handles those contracts on their own. But what I've learned is it's really important for me to get out there and connect those folks with folks at Massport or some of the other airports in the region. And the folks that seem to have success, at least locally, are the folks that are at every networking event, whether it's a supply diversity event, a Chamber of Commerce event, a minority business development event. But the folks that I see most often locally are the folks who have some success breaking in on this side. And I do think that, you know, again, echoing some of Ron's points, I do think we'll start to see that change at AMAC and on a national level. But especially in my limited experience, the engineering and construction side those folks have had a lot of success dealing with the authorities directly on a local level. So we're hoping to bring some of that national.
Okay. All right. So this is not an out-of-body experience question, but I am going to ask you to think about your fellow panel members. So Ron, Lauryn, who cannot keep a secret, spilled the beans and announced to the world that you're retiring. Just a lack of discipline there, but we will accommodate for that.
First, I said Ron. I would have the suspense would have just took everyone out. You know, had he said no, so I would have left it at that and let him say it.
You put the guy on the spot on the air, but that's.
And I wanted the ability to take the full hour to give him his flowers because if
you
anyone
guys
knows
enjoying
Ron
the
and
Twitter
I,
fight? You guys enjoying that? Please let us know through the chat room.
Can I recant my advice to women? Can I put Lauryn up as a don't? As part of my advice?
I was just about to tell everybody, my relationship with Ron is very much so like my relationship with Ricky. It literally is the battle royale every time we see each other. So this is actually a very different experience for me to give Ron his flowers, because usually I'm talking about his tie. I'm telling him I don't know what he would do without his wife, you know, giving him just a hard time all the time. So this is the one rare occasion in the past, I don't know how many years, I've known Ron to give him his flowers. So I wanted that, Ricky. Thank you.
Ron, you're a smart man. I want to be as smart as you. I think you understand that a fight with Lauryn is not one you're going to win. I never expect to win. I just want to stay in the fight, right?
One can only hope she puts her foot in her mouth. If you wait long enough, she will.
Yeah, there you go. So, Ron, it's very public now that you are retiring, right? And so the question for you is, if you can look back in your career, probably around the time you were at Andre's stage in your career, is there something you would do differently that would have allowed you to accomplish something in your career that perhaps you did not accomplish? That's for you. For Andre, I don't think we're going to be announcing retirement plans for you anytime soon, right?
No, sir.
But at some point, if you're blessed, you're going to be in Ron's seat and you're going to retire. Ron has an amazing story, right? And his impact on this industry is well documented. What is it that you want to be able to say, or people to say about you, when you're at Ron's point in your life, in your career? That's the question for you. And so you guys can decide who goes first.
Go ahead, Andre.
I'll go first for that one, Ron. You know, Ricky, for me, I would like to be a conduit to folks outside of this industry, kind of the way I was. I had no idea what kind of opportunities were in this industry for minorities. I went to my first AMAC event in 2018 in Seattle, and at the welcome event, I looked around and said, oh, there's a career in this for me. And at that time, I was 33 years old, and I had just been waiting. I had no idea what I really wanted to do. And so I've picked up the baton from that day and tried to keep the momentum going in this industry. And I've had an amazing time. I've been able to push myself professionally to places I didn't think I would be able to go. So I want to be that for the next generation of folks coming out of, at the time I was out of college for a while, but I was looking for myself professionally. I'd like to be a conduit for that and for the industry moving forward. If I'm blessed to be in this as long as Ron is and being part of AMAC for this amount of time, I would like to continue AMAC's mission moving forward. And specifically where I'm from in Boston, I don't think it's a secret that we have a bit of a reputation just nationally when it comes to diversity, including minorities in the business. So I want to be a part of the change of that. I come from a family that has done some of that work here locally. So I want to be able to continue to carry that forward and hopefully leaning on some of the guys in the industry. And Ron has been a friend to me since I've come in, yourself, Clarence Lejeune. Hopefully I can continue to do that. And one day, as you say, if I'm blessed, get to the point where I'm at in Ron's position where I can retire and look back on a great career and have all these stories. And so, yeah, I would like to be a conduit to the future of minorities and women in the aviation industry.
So my biggest regret is I was not born to wealth. The wrong family took me home from the hospital. There was a mix-up. One day I hope to find my real parents and claim my inheritance. But since that didn't happen, I kind of had to put myself through school and get a couple of degrees and find my way into the working world. So Ricky, that was my biggest regret. My next biggest regret, I won't call it a regret, but what would you do differently is really an excellent question. And mine is, and my advice to everybody would be, if you have an iota of entrepreneurial bent in your DNA and you think you want to take a risk, do it young. Because you get older, you have kids, you start building a life, and you become afraid to take risks. So I've had to do it basically through others. There's a bigger word for that, and it's not coming to mind right now, but it's basically the
vicarious.
best part of this job is really setting young people up for success. And I wish I had taken some of those shots when I was young, and that's a bit of a regret, but I've made up for it by being able to help others, and that's really brought me a lot of joy in my life.
That was Ricky's 3 questions, so I guess I can jump in now. So my question for you guys is, you kind of talked about regrets, talked about opportunities a little bit when we were talking about AEC. Ron, when I met you, you had a lot more darker hair on your head and in your beard. So you've been at this for a little bit of time, right? Lots has changed over these past few years. What opportunities have you guys seen, or gaps do you guys see within the industry that people, women, minorities, individuals can kind of fill in, or opportunities that they can start pursuing that are outside of what we've traditionally seen over the past few years or decades in Ron's case?
I thought Ricky was going to ask all the hard questions. Part of it is, I think we look at the regulation too much and how it has manifested itself as to what the opportunities are. And because I've been working for a concessionaire for almost 30 years, I'm probably very narrowly focused on that. But suppliers to me, it's like a green field that we have not been able to figure out how to tap. I've called the FAA folks on the carpet. I think Wilbur Barham's on the call. I think he and I have had this conversation. Is the rules don't work for the supplier side, and I just think that's a real green field that hasn't been tapped by the ACDBE program, and it just seems very limiting that we're all just chasing concessions. Another area I think that should be explored more is technology. There's it's a newer field, There's not like a bunch of 125-year-old companies that you got to jump ahead of to get some play. But it's been a hard push because the dinosaurs in the world, like myself, we're not used to looking for opportunities in those areas. Devon, who works for me, is constantly pushing me to say, hey, Ron, look at this. Here's something. And a lot of times when she comes out of a supply chain background, and she says, there's a lot of opportunity here and everybody's missing it. And I think the program narrowly focuses on ACDVEs on being not broke, but near broke. And your business size can only be but so large. And I really think it should be, the measuring stick should be different for suppliers. I think it maybe should be number of employees relative to the industry, something like that. But I think that is something that could be pushed. It's not a popular sell with clients because, again, they were brought up in the, it's $1.3 million cap on P&W and $56 million cap on business size. And I'm not allowed to mix goods and services with concessions and concession ownership. And I just feel like we're missing some opportunities there.
Presumably the legend is 100% open. A lot of the outreach that I've done in my first 5 years, I come across many folks that are either certified or want to get certified, and they're interested in concession operations in the airport, but frankly, they don't have the capacity for it yet. That shouldn't be a barrier. There are a lot of these folks that will be really, I think, do really well in the airport space. So having opportunities for suppliers and incentivizing airports and developers to get participation credit for those suppliers, I do think is really, really important. Listen, we can all be frank here. People want to do good work, but they're not going to do it if there's not a benefit for them on the other end. So I think there has to be a two-pronged approach. The opportunity has to be there, but we have to incentivize folks making the decisions to create more opportunities so they see the benefit and give these folks that may not have the capacity for an actual location or a lease yet, at least to start to participate in the program. And maybe there's a way that they can build up the capacity to have their own location, a kiosk, at least, but you have to start somewhere. And just financially can be debilitating getting in, especially if you have a street operation or if you're looking to expand and the airport is just one of the ways you're looking to expand. A lease and full-time operation may not be the best route. So I would agree with Ron, having more opportunities for suppliers, I think is something that we should be taking advantage of industry-wide for sure.
There's a saying out there that really sticks with me. And I'm probably screwing it up, but the saying is basically find yourself because everyone else is taken, right? Find yourself because everyone else is taken. So let's say that was not true. And there was that one more person out there that you could find. Who would that person be?
Do I look perplexed? I'm not sure I'm following the question. And I don't want to answer it incorrectly and get on your wrong side.
It's an odd way of asking, who is that profound person out there that you would aspire to be like?
Outside of yourself, who would you want to be? And you can say me, Ron. I understand. It's totally okay.
This again, can I bring up my health side?
You want? Who do you want to call? Andre?
Wow. This is going to sound weird. I get up in the morning, I look in the mirror. I don't sit there like wishing I had lived my entire life differently. And I think that's healthy. And if he's on the call, I know Daryl Benton wants me to say that I wish I was Daryl Benton, but I'm throwing that out there just in case he is on the call, so he knows I at least thought about it.
Or Bill Jennings, right?
Or Bill Jennings, yes.
Right.
Or Clark Sharp.
Or Clark Sharp, yes.
Clark and Leon, those are my guys. Man. Those are my guys. And I ain't gonna say Elon Musk anymore because done. I would like to have started Tesla, but I didn't. And I think, I I just look at people who take chances, and I just go like, you know, that I get a little bit of jealous. You know, I get a little jealous of some of my ACDV partners. I'll look at. I look, PJ Benton was one of my heroes. I look at what she did, and I'm just like, man, why didn't I think of that? Clarence Daniels, you know, you know, sometimes I look at that and I go like, I think I could have done that, but I needed to start when I was Andre's age, not when I'm, you know, at the tender. Well, we won't discuss age, unless we're going to discuss Lauryn's, you know, drinking habits.
There you go.
You got to be fair.
I like that idea, actually.
I guess the honest answer would probably be, I don't think there's an individual. It's an amalgamation of people. There are different people that I admire and try and just pull from. If we're going to keep it industry specific, the two people.
It doesn't have to be industry, but go ahead.
Well, the two people that come to mind, friend of mine, Randy Hazelton, owner and operator of H&H Hospitality. When I met Randy, I was just thoroughly impressed with his history in the industry. And I thought we were the exact same age. I think he's like 2 or 3 years older than I am. But I was just insanely impressed with where he was in this industry. And when I met him and introduced myself, I said, look, man, we don't really know each other, but you're at where I'm trying to be. And we're the same age. So I need to figure out how you did that and pick your brain, and whatever advice you're willing to give, I'm willing to listen. And we've struck up a pretty good friendship. We've been able to do a little bit of work together so far. So I would say Ricky, and I do owe a debt to Clarence Lejeune, who brought me into this industry and has been a mentor and an example of just how to operate in this space. So those would be the two folks that I can name off the top of my head. But it's an amalgamation of people that have just influenced me throughout my life, and my father, by the way.
When you think of Clarence Lejeune, I mean, does the fashion come with that as well?
It does. I just can't afford his tailor yet. So I got a ways to go till I can go and see his guy. But yeah, he definitely is an inspiration from the fashion side. Sure.
I'm on an HMSHost salary, and I still don't have that budget.
No.
I was gonna say Andre does a pretty good job of shopping off the rack, though. You know, it looks tailored. I wouldn't have known you didn't have one. So there's that. You're on your way.
Couple of more promotions, Lauryn. Just wait.
Okay, so let's go there. Andre, thank you for kind of opening that door for me. So Ron, you've been, you know, one thing about our industry is I heard people say it a lot when I first got into the industry, and I thought it was kind of weird. Like, it's incestual. And I was like, okay, don't really understand what you mean by that. But as I've continued in the industry, I do understand a little bit more because, and I'll tell people this all the time, you know, our industry is very, very unique in regards to there's so many different opportunities. Any industry you can think of, you can basically find a space for yourself within aviation. And so, which leads to so many opportunities for you to really be able to move around and try different things and still stay under the umbrella of aviation, right? So Ron, you are somewhat of an anomaly because you've been with the same company for over 30 years, right? If you were not the Ron Gomes, right, of HMSHost, and you could have done anything else in the industry, and Andre, I'm going to pose the same question to you. What would that look like? What would that be?
Goodness, I think I'm going to sound like I'm repeating myself here. I'm mulling this one over a little bit.
I'm stumping him, Ricky. I just want to let you know that. We're going to throw that out there.
Yeah, okay, I see. All right, we're going to battle over who asked the same question. Okay, got it.
Someone's keeping score, Ron.
Is this the part where Andre and I start asking you two questions? Because I heard that was a thing that we could try too, but maybe not.
Where's my help sign?
I got one.
So now.
So I'm really struggling with trying to come up with a unique answer to this. Ask it in a different way, so I understand where you're frozen. I kind of like this view.
Yeah, no, man, this works. This is intentional, by the way.
How did you do that, Rick?
Ebony did it for me.
That's
I think we got Lauryn back.
Okay, she's back. Lauryn, could you hear me struggling with your question a little bit? Great. It sounded a lot like the question that was already asked, so I didn't want to answer the same question.
You'd be an ACDB?
I mean, I think I talked about some people that I looked up to. There's some of the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, he said he thinks you're trying to take credit for a question I already asked.
Oh no, I mean, if your goal would be ACDBE, then okay. But no, I didn't. I was pretty open with the question, but I feel like it was a better question than Ricky's question that could pose a different answer.
I see.
I mean, Steve might be on this, but if you wanted to go for CEO of HMSHost, that's still on the table too. I'm just.
So the CEO of HMSHost has been a guest on this program, and I watch him in the halls, and you know, all that glitters is not gold. That's not a simple job either. I would rather be Warren Buffett and be independently wealthy and not have to run the company on top of everything else. I just want the wealth, and I don't want everyone to know who I am when I walk in the room. You know, flying under the radar. I think at the core of your question, though, I think I'm just going to spin it a different way. It's just I'm going to just say like my life philosophy. I can talk. There's two things that come to mind. One is the golden rule. And I just try to treat people the way I would want to be treated. And then my late mom comes to mind all the time. She always said, taste your words before you spit them out. And you can't take back what you said, especially in an email. And it's, you know, hold your anger. If you're mad, hold it for another day. And try to be rational when you get in an argument with someone. You know, step to their side. What's their view of this situation, and try to handle it that way. I think we all will come out more on top with a couple of simple rules like that. And no, I don't sit here wishing I was somebody else. I don't think that's a way to live your life. I think give it your best shot with what you were given, and make sure you can look in the mirror every day and say, I did my best.
You know, Ron, your grandmother's
mid-question.
Your grandmother's statement was profound. Taste your words before you spit it out. But when you said that, the word that came to mind was shit. Right? I'm sorry. And I just wonder how it applies there. You know?
Don't spit it out, man. You saw what it tastes like.
I don't know what just happened. So I think I might have frozen while I was asking the question. Was that what happened?
You did freeze, yes.
Oh, okay. So I was, okay. Now it makes sense. So I was like, Ron, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? No. So my question was just, you know, I was talking about how you've been within HMSHost for the past 30 years, which we see a lot of people that do different things within the industry. Under different umbrellas, the whole nine, because there's so many opportunities. So I was saying that if you could do, you are not Ron Gomes, you are not Andre Titus. If you could do anything in this industry, what would that be?
In this industry?
In this industry, yes. Think about all of the many opportunities and micro industries within our industry.
Including appearing on Legends and Leapers.
Well, understanding that what I'm going to give you is the second best thing I could have done, this being the best, you know, being on this program with my two favorite co-hosts. I think the best thing you can do in this industry is start something, build something, and build it for not just the next generation, but the generation of the people next to you, and build something for the community. And this is the United States of America. It's a capitalist society. And if you want equality, if you want a seat at the table, I'm sorry, success talks. And the more that you can build success, build wealth, not just for yourself, but pass it on down. Bring along the next entrepreneur, the next couple of entrepreneurs. And I had said that PJ Benton was a hero of mine, because that's what she was doing. She was helping people who did not share her last name. You know, they shared a background, but they didn't share last names, and she was paying it forward to another generation of entrepreneurs. And I think in this society, that is probably the strongest, best thing to do. Had it to do all over again, I think that's the approach I would take.
Andre?
If I could do anything in this industry, you know, I'm in a regulatory sort of role now and came in with the compliance and certification. What I've learned is, and especially through my work on the board and with AMAC, I have a real passion for developing minority businesses and specifically Black-owned business. Me personally, I have a passion for that. And I think to piggybacking off what Ron said, you know, my generation of professionals, it's really important that we pay the knowledge that we have forward to folks younger than us. And I can speak for myself, but that hasn't always been the case with some of the elders that I've encountered in our community. So that's something that I want to really, really address. I think that's been an issue, not in aviation, definitely not with AMAC, but just in our business community in general. I think oftentimes we kind of compete against one another rather than work in concert with one another. So I want to get in a business development role, one, because again, I have a passion for it. I want to connect Black business to Black business opportunities. I do think that is a tangible way we can attack some of the wealth gap, the racial wealth inequities that we all talk about and that the world is really talking about right now. But I think, as Ron said, it's important for us as a community internally to make sure that we share information, share resources, help one another up. For the folks at the top to not be intimidated by the folks on the rise, to help us along. Because ultimately the goal to level the playing field is it has to be a team effort. It has to be all of us.
Do you guys have superpowers? Ron, what's your superpower?
I have no known enemies. How's that?
No known enemies. Okay. I can believe that. I can believe that.
In all seriousness, though, this is a great industry, but it's a small industry, and I just try to find common ground with everybody across in the industry, and there's no need to fight. There's no need to call names. I really think if you can get to the position where everybody is open and honest with you, that's a powerful thing. And not everybody has that, because not everybody, you don't feel, some people you just feel like anything you say that you can't trust. And I really think for whatever reason, I credit my parents. For some reason, I was taught, be trustworthy, be truthful, be yourself, and people will be truthful with you, and that has helped me tremendously.
Superpowers.
Superpower.
Only get one.
I would say my authenticity. While I'm not the most verbose individual, people that do know me and know me well know that I can be candid to a fault. And that served me well in this industry. I'm not a corporate person, so it was really important for me to just be able to speak the way that I speak and to have conversations the way that I do with people. And I know that may sound, I don't know how that sounds to you guys on this call, but suffice it to say that there's not a person that I cannot have a conversation with. I can talk to a CEO, I can talk to the newest hire on the grounds crew, the line cook. It doesn't matter who it is. If you put me in a room or on the phone with them, we can have a robust conversation. I can pull whatever it is we need out of that individual. And that's been able to serve me well across industries. Again, I being a part of AMAC and on this board, I've been able to do things professionally that I didn't think I was capable of. But having, the organization help show me or open the door for me, I was just able to step into some of these spaces and kind of be myself, and it's worked. So I'm trying to lean on that a lot more and trust that a lot more for sure.
Can we take a moment? I feel like their communications, PR, and marketing team got to them before this Legends and Leapers. Because Ricky, if somebody asked you what your superpower would be, what would your answer be?
I care.
You said you care?
I care. Yes.
That's what you would want your superpower
No,
to
that
be.
is my superpower. I care.
See, Rick, you had me
I
too.
genuinely care about people.
You're training too.
Hmm.
Really? Because I'm like, oh, I'd love to be able to, you know, click my fingers and be in Dubai. Like, those are superpowers. You guys never seen Marvel?
That's a superpower? Okay.
Yes.
I don't think that's what's meant by superpower.
Oh,
You,
okay.
you young lady asked, what is your superpower? Not what do you want your superpower to be?
that touche.
Well, here,
Touche.
prove me wrong. Snap your fingers and disappear.
Okay, you know what? He did say what is. All right. I heard what, what would you want your superpower to be? Because I had a whole, Marvel Galaxy thing going on in my head, and you guys are talking about caring and trustworthy.
We can
and
have that.
devotion.
We can have that discussion on a different call, Lauryn.
Okay, we'll wait for the after show, and then I'll get into
yeah.
So, Andre, I appreciate what you said about, you quote unquote not being like the standard of corporate, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's something that we see more with younger generations. And when I say younger generations, I feel like we're kind of getting up there now. But baby boomers and up, right? Of what that corporate-y looked like. Like I remember growing up and listening to my parents code switch, you know what I mean, on the phone when a business call comes up or something along those lines. And something that Ron said earlier on was just about showing up and being your genuine, authentic self. How do you all show up and being your genuine, authentic self on a regular basis? What does that look like for you?
I can't.
Go ahead, Amber.
I don't want to name any names in this instance, but I think all of us, we get into meetings, we have discussions, and the check the box conversation kind of comes up, right? Like, how do we get minority participation, or how do we maximize minority participation in quote unquote an efficient way, right? So how do we find someone that checks multiple boxes, or if we have an Asian woman that checks 2 boxes, right, in this space, or a Black woman that checks 2 boxes. I'm really adamant about making sure that that's not what we do. And thankfully, Marketplace does not have that reputation. That's not how we do business. But again, we've all, I'm sure, been in meetings, been on calls, maybe sat on panels when some of those conversations, some of that code kind of comes up. It's not always an overt thing, but we know it when we hear it. So those are the kind of things that, sitting in these positions that we sit in, we really, I think it's our responsibility to make sure that any sort of opportunity or anything like that is real and authentic, and it's not just a way to check the box so we can move things along.
Yeah, and I mean, I keep hammering on authenticity. I've spoken at a lot of panels, and I've said a lot of things you don't say on a panel to a panel. And somehow I get away with it, and I think it's like what you see is what you get. I'm sorry, I ain't putting on X for anybody. If you don't like me for who I am, that's on you. I can't switch that. That's your problem, not mine.
And it turns out there aren't many people that don't like you, if any.
So not giving a damn seems to work.
And have you always had that approach, Ron, or is that something that you kind of come into as you have, gone through your career, or as times have changed? Do you feel as though you become more comfortable with just like, hey, I'm going to say what's on my mind, or have you always been that way?
Now that's a good question. You're on it.
Yeah.
Yes, I have evolved over time. I used to be afraid to be who I am. I used to be afraid to say what I was thinking. I used to be afraid to do something in a different way than everybody else did it. And guess what? Sometimes the different way is the right way. Sometimes everyone else has it wrong. And you know what? I would say most of the time, everyone else has it wrong. And don't confuse position with real authority. you know, because sometimes our leaders are flat out wrong. That's why we have wars.
All right.
Should I stop there?
So there's been some great questions that have come up in the chat. I know Ebony keeps bouncing on and off because she wants to close us out, but I do have some questions that I want to address in our after show. But I know y'all know Ebony, there's announcements to be had. So I want to give her these next 2 minutes to do that before we get into the after show and I really get to put Ron on the spot.
So I actually just want to use the announcement to say thank you, Ron. Thank you to your contribution to our industry, to AMAC. Though I've only been here a year, I've heard stories of your support, your advocacy for people, for organizations, for AMAC in particular. And from the bottom of my heart, I just want to sincerely tell you, from the leaders of our board, from the people who I stand on their shoulders, thank you from our industry. This has been one of the highest, at the height of when people were on, this has been one of the highest participated Legends and Leapers. And of course, Andre, not to take away from you, because of you too, Andre, but I know because of the legend, Ron Gomes. So thank you very much, Ron.
Thank you for that, Ebony. I'm touched. AMAC, when you want to talk about trade groups that are their authentic selves, this is the one. This is the one that you walk your talk. So congratulations to all of you.
We got some work for you in your retirement.
Yeah. He's not going to be able to get away. I think he knows that. I think he knows he's going.
And so what I want to tell everyone is really thank you for joining us today for, of course, another great conversation. Shout out to those 17 men of Morehouse. I hope you stay on the line and listen for a few more minutes. I see you've got a question in the chat. So thank you for joining us. Be on the lookout for all the great things that are happening in our organization, including some positions that we are looking to build and continue to build for the future. So for those of you who want to stay for after the show is the after party, well, that's what Lauryn does. So, but this is the official signing off. Thanks once again. And then with that, I'll let people sign off. And Lauryn, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. So yeah, like Ebony said, there were a few people in the crowd for Ron, but we actually had 17 individuals from Morehouse tuning in from their business school. And one of the questions that was asked, we talked about Ron's background in civil engineering, and then, his transition. What are some routes to entry as far as careers for college business graduates looking to enter the aviation industry? What do you guys recommend? What do you think is a good entry point? I know we've talked about just our industry being so robust, but what would you all's recommendations be?
And as they answer that question, I do have to hop off.
Yeah.
That's right. My shoulders can carry it, Ricky.
That's why I feel so comfortable doing it. All right, you guys. Thanks a lot. Okay, this was great. Ron, we'll be in touch. You're not going that far.
I got to change that cell phone number.
All right, guys.
Okay, take care.
Point of entry. What would you guys' recommendations be?
Yeah, to your question though, Lauryn, there's no. Get your degree, get your education. College is for learning how to think and how to interact with your crew, your peeps, the people you don't know. That's what college is for. It's not. There's no magic degree that's going to launch you to the top. Unless you know at birth you want to be a nuclear physicist, and then you go and you pursue that. God help you. I worked on nuclear plants in my first career, by the way. Yeah, here, I'll give you a classic, for instance, high school. I went to a vocational high school. I studied carpentry. I wanted to be a carpenter, and I just wanted to build houses. I played baseball on the varsity team. One of the coaches pulled me aside and he said, what are you planning on doing after graduation? And I said, well, I'll get a job building houses. And he said, you need to go to college. And I'm like, well, I'm at the wrong school to launch that. He goes, that's okay, we're gonna help you out. And he hooked me up with one of our English teachers at the school, who happened to be the prettiest teacher in the school. So myself and one of the other guys, he arranged for us to be after school with her for once a week. She taught us the things we needed to know to be able to get through the SATs that you didn't learn at a vocational school. And I was able to take the SATs, and I was able to get into a small local college. And then I asked him, I said, well, I don't know what to major in. And he says, what do you like to do? I said, I like to build things. I said, civil engineering. That's how much thought went into it. I got into civil engineering. I started to, as I thought I was going to do, okay, I'll do construction as my role. I was in a co-op program where you go to school a semester, then you work a semester. I didn't grow up wealthy, if you can tell. I'm on the job, the VP from the big construction company that hired me for my first semester of work came out to visit me. He says, how do you like it? I said, I hate it. He goes, I knew you would. He goes, you don't have the right personality for this. He goes, go get an MBA or a law degree. And and then this is the funniest part of the story. I had this wart on my finger that wouldn't go away. So I go to see this dermatologist, old Jewish guy. He's working on the ward. He says, tell me about yourself. I'm talking to him, and he's there. He goes, yeah, you're not an engineer. You're the second person to tell me that. So he made me come back and prove to him that I had taken the GMAT so that I could go to business school. Told me what business schools to go to. Andre down the street, I went to Babson. I got my MBA there. And while I was finishing that, I was working in the nuclear engineering field, designing this structures inside nuclear plants that I designed. Hold your breath, because I'll tell you which ones you should avoid. And but you know, I started down that road, and then this last 16 years of my career, I've been working with women and minority businesses. Nothing in my background said I was going to end up doing this, and it's been the most fun job I've ever had. I've never held a job for this one position, doing the same thing for 16 years. There's no firm starting point, is what my roundabout way of saying it. Do what feels right to you in the moment, education-wise, but get that education, and then see where your skills and your natural abilities take you, and you'll be fine.
It's crazy because I feel like when we have legends on the call and, you know, a question along those lines, kind of as far as their background is concerned, majority of people are like, I never in a million years, right? And just the journey was very, very, very rocky and very different than what you would think. I think yours probably by far is the most unique, though, considering civil engineering is not an easy lift by any means whatsoever. Like, you have to go to school for 5 years, like your undergraduate minimum.
Ron had a full schedule of credits his entire time.
Yes, he had no social life at Babson. And then
when the girls hear that you took 4 semesters of calculus, they come running.
I'm sure, Ron, that's how you got your wife, huh?
Mm-hmm.
She was like, oh, it's the calculus for me. But no, and you make such a great point. You could really be doing anything and find your way in this industry. Andre, what about you? What do you think that like a really good entry point for people that maybe know they're interested or want to get into aviation?
Well, similarly, unless you have a lifelong, like if you want to be a pilot, if that's something that, you know, this has a clear path, I would encourage most folks to look into emerging industries like green energy and tech, because this industry, as Lauryn said during the webinar, you can find your way literally doing anything. You know, Ron just gave you his background. I was a basketball player. My undergrad was in liberal arts and Africana studies. I went to Georgetown for graduate school for sports industry management and only completed a year of the 2-year program. So I had an idea that I was going to be in the sports industry. I found my way to certification, and that's led me to pursue a path of business development, right? But to answer your question, Lauryn, I think that some of these emerging industries and or technologies are going to be really hot in our industry. And I think Ron made the point earlier, there's around 100 companies that you have to compete with yet. So this is the time to sort of get in early. If that's what you're studying, if you have some of the interest, I would encourage folks to go in that direction.
That's awesome. Thank you. Ron, I think outside of a couple of people saying rude to the bros of Omega Sci-Fi, which was for Ricky, majority of the chat is just giving you your flowers. And we're so fortunate that, you know, we were able to do this Legends and Leapers and have you on here at the start of the year, because you have left your mark. Now, what that mark is, a birthmark, a, you know, whatever stain. No, I'm just
Someone
playing.
say a stain.
You have left your mark on so many people and this industry as a whole, inside and outside of AMAC. But as on behalf of AMAC, just thank you for everything that you've done over these past 30 years. And just all the people that you've touched. And also the fact that, you know, you've opened doors for a lot of individuals and creating a space and a seat at the table. I'm really excited to see this powerhouse between Shelby and Devon, and how that helps HMSHost grow, because to see, you know, as a Black woman, to see these two come into that position and collectively fill your shoes is going to be great. I think they're actually probably going to have bigger feet than you do by the end of this, because they are going to be absolutely dynamic. But thank you so much for everything that you've done. I'm going to miss, you know, ragging on you and us going back and forth with our banter. But again, very much so appreciated. Andre, you know, me and you are just getting into this thing. I know we aspire to be the future Ron and Ricky's of the world, just as far as the imprint and the mark that we've left. So thank you all both so much. Next month is Black History Month. February is almost here already. We're excited for our February installation of Legends and Leapers. If you haven't already, be on the lookout for all of the information for our annual conference in San Antonio and all of the local chapter and regional events that AMAC has going on. So really excited. Thank you all so much for staying on for the after show. Appreciate you, Ron. If I had flowers.
I take cash. I take cash.
They're flowers. I was giving them to
you. Look tall. I think you're sitting on a pile of it.
But no, appreciate you all so much. And again, congrats again. I'm sure we will not be seeing the last of you. But Ron will be in San Antonio. So if you want to give him his flowers in person, make sure you're registered for the AMAC conference. And that's my final plug. Thanks, gentlemen. You guys have a great one. Have a blessed rest of your week.
Thanks, Lauryn. Take care, Ron.
Bye.
Thanks, Sandra.